It's Wednesday, January the 27th. Lake level's right at 916. They've got her pulled down pretty good. The water temperatures, I've been getting different reports. I haven't been on the water. The last week and a half I was in El Salto, Mexico. So the information I'm going to be giving you today is pretty much all secondhand. But the water temperatures I'm getting, the upper rivers are in the low 40s. The main lake seems to be, mid to upper 40s. Now, I have been around the lake the last few days, and it looks like the majority of the lake still got like a green kind of, a little bit of mud color to it. But I was down on a dock there this morning, and it looks like it's dirty, but you got, 3-4 feet of visibility. Now, like I say, when I was gone to Mexico fishing, you guys had pretty miserable weather here. So a lot of the people I talked to, as far as to get information from, nobody's been out on the water that much, with the exception of from this weekend up to the last few days. But they said the upper river arms have been, a little tough. I think there was a tournament up at Cape Fair this weekend. I think it was 4 fish limit, but I think 3 fish won it with 10 pounds. But I heard the bites a little better, from like Campbell Point and Baxter, the mid-lake area, and on up to the dam. I think they're still catching a lot of deep fish in the center of the deep creeks out there suspended, and still they're starting to catch some on an Alabama rig. Now, if I'm going out probably Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or Friday and Sunday for sure. But this is the time of year we catch our big fish, and what I'm going to primarily try to key on is catching them on an Alabama rig. If I can't get anything going on an Alabama rig, then I will kind of resort to trying to catch some deep fish out in the center of the creeks or on some main lake points and bluff ends. But it looks like the weather's supposed to be real nice for a few days. I think 60s Friday and on through the weekend. So, it's going to be a good time to be out there. And like I say, the big fish really haven't showed up very much this year. Right before I left, there was a tournament, and I think it took 18 pounds to win. Then it dropped pretty quick. And that was with 6 fish. And normally, this time of year, 18 pounds doesn't even give you a chance at a check. It's usually mid-20s to, 25, 28 pounds it normally takes to win. And a lot of those fish there are coming on an Alabama rig. And what I like to throw on my Alabama rigs, I usually like the ones that have the center wire is a little bit longer. I'll usually put a little bit bigger bait. I've got a 4.5 Kitech on my middle one. And in Missouri, we can only have 3 with hooks. So on my 2 dummy baits, and what I do with a dummy bait is I just put like a screw lock, what comes on a shaky head, and screw the bait onto that. Now, when I first started throwing them, what we used to do is just cut the hook off and put a regular ball-headed jig on. The problem with that is you never had control of where the dummy baits were, where everything would be the same weight. You might get your strikes on that. You'll find that probably 85-95% of your bites come on the middle or the 2 other ones that are lowest in the water. Most of the fish are either coming from behind it or up underneath. So that's why I don't like to put anything on the 2 dummy baits except a little screw lock. This way, if you watch the bait when you're reeling it in, these will always be up on top. The ones with the weights will be down on bottom. Another thing I like to do on the Alabama rig, these are just called, it's like a weed guard. And they use them for crappie fishing a lot, but these are a little bit bigger. And what that does is you slide it on before you put your bait on, then you just take the end of it and put it over the hook point. What that helps you do if you're fishing it in and over the top of heavily structured areas like cedar trees, it'll help keep the bait from getting stuck in the trees. Most of the time when you get stuck in them trees, it's the bait itself coming through and getting wedged in on limbs. So if you get it stuck, instead of jerking it, if you take the boat over to it and get right on top of it or behind it, you can usually get it undone. Now, where I'm going to throw this, or when I go out this weekend, I'm going to check a lot of main lake bluff ends, place where I got a channel coming up against the main lake point where it's flat on one side. and preferably a creek channel on the other side. I may set the boat in 60 to 80 foot of water, casting to 15, 20 foot up on top of the point. And I'll keep a close eye on my electronics. If I see the fish suspended, I'll try to get my A-rig down to that depth. If I see them closer to the bottom, I may let this thing go to the bottom in 15 or 16 foot, work it out to 30 or 40 feet, trying to stay in contact with the bottom. Another good bait, this time of year too, as far as a search bait, is just a 4 or 5 inch single tail grub, fished on a 1/4 ounce head, and you can adjust the depth that you're fishing it to by, it'll drop roughly about a foot a second on a 1/4 ounce head. And you can, if you want to fish at 15 foot, give it about a 15 count and just reel it in real slow like you slow roll on a spinnerbait. That'll usually work too, but it seems like the best time for the Alabama rig is right now. Usually from late December on into February to early March. That's when we catch the majority of our real big fish. And it can really be a rewarding bait this time of year to throw. But you can also, there's times you can throw it all day and not hard to get a bite. So I may mess with it for 3 or 4 hours. I can't get that going, then I'll start going to the center of the deep creeks, looking for the shad. The gulls should be flying around. If you can find the gulls and the loons together, you usually find shad underneath them. Then you may just have to go in several different areas to find where the bait are holding underneath or around the shad. My dog's got an itchy butt, I guess. But anyways, next week I'll have a lot better fishing report for you. As far as the fish on El Salto, it was absolutely awesome. We caught 100 to 120 bass a day. Anywhere, a lot of 3 to 5.5 pound fish and a few over 8 every day. But the numbers of fish was unbelievable. 80 degrees every day. Sorry I missed the cold and freezing rain that y'all had here, but I was enjoying myself there. So, till next week, good luck, good fishing.